Ramana, what a privilege to have you in today, and I'm so excited to talk about all the things you've been doing at Dexus.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's great to be in here and great to spend time with you, Davina.
Well, you've just been launching a new sustainability strategy. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I thought maybe I'd start off by just talking to Dexus and the change in our platform.
Amazing.
So with the purchase of the AMP Capital sort of column 8 business, we've gone from that real estate platform to a real asset platform, and so infrastructure being added into our real estate portfolio. I think that's really exciting.
Fascinating.
But it also creates the right time to reset from a sustainability and ESG point of view. And so our board and management were really keen to do that. And so we've been running a process that's done those typical things you would do, like materiality, deep diving to really understand the most material issues. But we've also involved and engaged people, hundreds of people across our organisation and outside our organisation, to help us in a prioritisation process as well. And it's really exciting. We've landed on 3 key priority areas that are going to drive the next era of our strategy. And so customer prosperity, which I might talk to a little bit later on, climate action, obviously very relevant, and then enhancing communities. And the way we've thought about this is how do we get closer to our commercial strategy, to our business strategy? I was actually having a think about this recently and about how things have shifted. You and I have been in this
game for
sort
a
of
while.
game for a long time, over 20 years. And it was interesting, it was probably at the first driven by passionate people and employees of companies that really drove it, and perhaps advocacy organisations from outside companies. More recently, and we've talked about the importance of investors taking this seriously, and we've really seen them start to accelerate their care and involvement in ESG and sustainability. But I feel like that next step now is customers. And we're seeing the demand and expectation of customers looking for sustainability activity and performance. And so I think that's what's exciting about building our new strategy, was how do we tie it tightly to our commercial strategy, which is focused on being resilient through the cycle and having assets that people want to be in, that they want to rent and be a part of, but also that we're an investment manager of choice, going back to that investors' focus on it as well. So yeah, excited by the new strategy. And of course, the piece we now do on is how do we execute that and really drive value as well.
Well, I love that, because I think, to get true scale, it really needs to be at the heart of the value proposition as well as the sustainability proposition. So I'm going to ask some questions on that, and how one of the things that Dexus has always been really strong on is performance, doing what you say you do. Can you give us a bit of an update of what's been happening in that space?
Yeah, look, not why we do it, but we've obviously performed really well on indices like top 10 Dow Jones Sustainability Index. We do sector leadership in GRESB and good GRESB ratings across the organisation as well. But that piece you talk to is really important. It's performance and how you drive changes at an asset level that create value, like real value. And so what we're probably more proud of is improving our energy intensity by 9.5% over the last 5 years.
Amazing.
By 4.9 average neighbours rating across the portfolio. We've got a 4-star Green Star performance rating as well, which we really value and we continue to push and drive across the portfolio too. But then there are tangible things that we do at an asset level. And one of the things that we've been really focused on in the last round of asset planning is taking the new strategy and aligning our asset strategies and plans to that new strategy. So we've integrated those 3 priority areas that I talked about into that strategy and planning process, and working on the CapEx and OpEx that ensures that we have real tangible activity that we're driving at an asset level. And that plays out to things like we electrified our GP health centre down in South Australia. We've achieved some really good outcomes in renewable penetration. We've been able to maintain net zero on our managed portfolio, even with the AMP Capital transaction and all of those assets coming into the fold. We've been able to drive energy efficiency, primary need, obviously renewable energy purchasing, and then some residual offsetting that we've done as well. So yeah, really proud of tangible delivery, but also acknowledge that things are shifting and moving quickly, and we need to lift our game and drive that new strategy through the organisation as well.
Well, that is the piece that's interesting. You've centred in long-term performance and outcomes, but where do you see the future in this space? Where's the ambition?
Yeah, I think where the big excitement is around the customer prosperity part of our strategy. And so that ability to understand what our customers are looking to drive, and many of them now set their own net zero targets and are trying to drive their carbon outcomes. But they're also thinking about the prosperity, the well-being of their employees and employee engagement, and how they drive better productivity across their people as well. So I think that for us is a real opportunity space, is how do we leverage good sustainability performance in a way that's useful and valuable for the people that occupy our buildings or use our real assets. And then how do we enable them to drive their performance, which for us is often our scope 3 or our indirect and influence outcomes. And so that's where I see huge opportunity, is how we continue to elevate and lift for our customers.
And one of the things that I love is you talk about taking corporate strategy all the way to the project. So you have some pretty sensational developments that are, walking the heartbeat of some of this strategy. Can you tell us about a couple of the exciting ones?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually, as part of the AMP Capital acquisition, the Key Quarter Tower, QQT, came across, and it's been receiving lots of awards for some of the incredible work that it's done. But we've also got some interesting and exciting new ones on the horizon now as well. And so one that probably a lot of people will know about is Atlassian, and the partnership we've got at Atlassian around bringing their building to life. So a 50% decarbonisation commitment, so embedded carbon.
Yep.
So that means obviously timber and mass timber, but also green concrete, green steel, recycled aluminium, really interesting work around zones and spaces for air and how you use air conditioning or don't in areas across that building as well. And then on Waterfront Place up in Brisbane, also some really exciting stuff around circularity and fit-outs. There's a carbon component to that, how we're reducing carbon within our fit-outs. But also there's obviously a circularity waste sort of resource management component to it as well. Waterfront Brisbane has been able to achieve, we set a commitment of 90% diversion from waste. We've actually recycled and reused, I think it's well over 95% through the decommissioning, and so that's been really exciting. But then obviously we're working on, when we go into fit-out stages, how are we doing those fit-outs? One with far bigger focus on decarbonisation, but the other one is life cycle and then reuse and recycling as we go out of that as well. And that actually translates then into existing and operating assets as well. How do we learn from what we're doing in those sort of amazing new development opportunities and then translate that into our other assets as well?
Yeah, how do you take into that leap into the light?
Absolutely.
Translate it to scale. Well,
Yes.
What a beautiful and broad conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.